Laurie Blake's actress Jean Smart and Adrian Veidt's actor Jeremy Irons did an interview, and they shared more about their characters on HBO's Watchmen and where they're at right now. HBO's Watchmen takes place in what the future would be like 30 years after the graphic novel, and while most of the new characters are just okay, except for Night Sister, she's Banff, a lot of people that loved the graphic novel are more interested in where those characters from the graphic novel are now in that show. Well, thanks to a recent interview, we at least know about Laurie and Adrian a little bit more. On Laurie, Jean has stated before, her complete rejection of her past makes her a more interesting person. Though we know that Laurie was never much into masked adventuring, and she was more so pushed into it by her mother, which makes it interesting to me that she continued after the events of the graphic novel to be a vigilante masked adventurer with Nite Owl, even though she took on a different name in honor of her biological father. So she took on the female version of her dad's name, the comedian, while Dan just stayed as a Nite Owl, and they continued to violate the Keene Act. And Jean admitted that Laurie is very much so like her father, which I think was very noticeable in episode 3, which I mentioned in my review. So they continued being masked adventurers for a good 10 years until 1995 when they were arrested. Dan refused to work with the FBI, kind of said fuck you, so they put him in jail. While Laurie said, okay, I'll work with you, and so she ended up joining the FBI, which is what we see in this show. Which I said in my episode 3 review, I thought that's what happened before I knew that actually is what happened. So, see, sometimes I can be right. Every once in a while. But Laurie doesn't just miss Dan now that he's in jail, but Dr. Manhattan too, because as I said before, when you've slept with a virtual god, probably really hard to go back to anything else. So on that, Jean said, "Of course she's been without Dr. Manhattan for 30 years. I keep forgetting that she was so young when she met Dr. Manhattan. She was a teenager, so she's never gotten over that schoolgirl crush, you know? His personality was kinda eh." Which I don't think at this point John's gonna be very into her. Even though he did truly love her and he was upset by not being with her anymore, he's really not into older women, so I think that's a negative. Plus, he dropped a car in front of her as a fuck off. Jean also shared that the tough-talking girl Laurie was only became more intense as she got older, saying, "Even when she was young and she was kinda tough-talking and chain-smoking, I mean, she was. She was not a flower whatsoever. She's only become more of that as she's gotten older." I don't know how I necessarily feel about her still pining after John. I kind of understand why she would do so, but it was an interview, I think maybe from a week ago, but the showrunner for HBO's Watchmen said that he never saw Laurie and Dan lasting that long anyways. I don't know if that means they just became friends after a while that fought crime together, and that it's just a friendly, he's my bestie, I want to get him out of jail, or if they stayed together until the arrest 10 years later. I'm not sure. He didn't really clarify. Next, Jeremy Irons talked about Adrian, who is the character in the graphic novel who's responsible for making the world believe an alien squid thing invaded Earth and killed millions of people, but got us to not nuke the shit out of each other and all come together as one, and then become horribly racist. Doesn't really make sense, but I'm sure they're gonna smooth out those details. Though Adrian's plan didn't go perfectly, so the thought after the alien invasion was, what if it was caused by technology? So people began to shun technology, and then of course we know Adrian made people believe that Dr. Manhattan's abilities cause cancer, so all those synthetic lithium batteries got recalled, which fucked over Adrian's business ventures and company. On Adrian's current imprisonment, Jeremy said, "It's so diminished from what he had that he's probably quite bored and frustrated." Jeremy also states that Adrian is cut off from the rest of the world, so he doesn't have any idea of what's going on currently. Jeremy believes Adrian lives with a sense of guilt and that he is bright enough to question what he did and live with unhappily. So he does believe he did the right thing in the end. Now, if you're wondering why Adrian seems a little bit crazier, kookier in the show than he did in the comics, Jeremy said, well, it's all the years and living with the guilt of what happened, even though he does believe in the end he was right, but also it's because of the medium, so the difference between the graphic novel and the TV show, saying, I think there's a difference between a comic character and a TV character. I think you can play more colors and play different things. I mean, in the graphic novel, he seems to me to be a little bit wooden. At the point of our story, I think Adrian is not doing too well, but we'll see what happens. So if you want more information, I said this in my review, but you can check out Pedia, which is Agent PD's imaginary journal of sorts he keeps online. If you just put in Pedia HBO, it should come up, or just go to HBO's Watchmen site, and there should be a link on there, but it has a lot of cool information. So what do you think? What are your crazy theories about Adrian? Do you think John and Laurie are going to come face to face and John's going to mock her? Like, subscribe, and let me know in the comment section down below.